Hello everyone, welcome to the seventh episode of Rendezvous with the Stalwarts. Today we have a very special episode on the occasion of International Women's Day. It is truly an honor to have these esteemed women engineers on the panel today who will be sharing with us their experiences of any discrimination that they have went through, their wish for women in engineering, and their advice for aspiring young women engineers and their parents. So, without any further ado, let's dive in straight to our conversation with Robin Kemper, Michelle Kam-Biron, Rose McClure, and Menzer Pehlivan. Over the course of your career, have you ever felt as though you were being treated unfairly or discriminated because of your gender? At what point did you first realize or acknowledge other people's biases against you?
Well, in general, I would say no. However, there was a specific situation. I was quite young. It was my first year out of school. The economy had changed and it wasn't good. So there were temporary assignments that were going on. And the company I worked for had quite a few, and there were quite a few that were international, and they were great assignments. To be honest, in 6 months, you could earn your full salary. And so I tried to get one of those, and I was newly married, young, and I was basically told, no, we don't think an international assignment would be good for you. And I have to admit, in those days, and maybe even still today, quite a few were in the Middle East, that would not have worked out, me being a woman engineer. But I still felt some of the others were valid. So I ended up being on a temporary assignment in another state. But there was definitely my being a woman, a young woman, newly married. No, they weren't going to even consider me to be able to have one of the international assignments.
I think that this is a good question, but it's also a loaded question. In general, I want to say no, but I know that it's not really possible. Even if we don't feel that we are blatantly discriminated against, I think it's impossible to account for all of the unconscious bias that we may experience in the workplace and to understand those forces. However, to answer your question, I have felt unfairness or discrimination at different points in my career. I would say that it was first obvious to me in engineering school. It's kind of impossible to not realize that you're in the minority as a woman engineer in school. That may have changed these days, but for me, it wasn't that way. But in general, I try not to draw attention to that. And I think that it's in something in school, it's as easy to experience as people expressing surprise at your good grades or your academic performance. In the workplace, I think it varies on the spectrum of, blatant discrimination that you may experience on a construction site to discrimination that you might experience in more subtle ways in an office setting, when your views may not be expressed or heard that well in a meeting when you're the only woman, or in a number of other very subtle ways that you try not to pay too much attention to,
Well, that's an interesting question, because going through my career and going through college, I didn't really recognize any type of mistreatment. It wasn't till around, I became president of CIAS, the Structural Engineers Association of Southern California, in 2015 and 2016. And I started talking to other women in the industry that I became really aware of gender marginalization and mistreatment of women or whatever. And then when I look back in my career, I thought, wait a minute, certain things did pop out in my mind. And I'll give you an example. For example, when I was at a community college going through some civil engineering courses like drafting or whatever, and most of the people in the class were male. And we had a drafting test, and I was the only one that got 100%. And the instructor, who happened to be male, singled me out and said, "Did you cheat on this test?" And the only thing I could think of is, when I think back of it, is because I was female that he singled me out to ask that, because I didn't cheat. Yes. And then there are other incidences that like in class when going to college, there was another female, and she and I were talking at the beginning of class, and everyone else was talking as well. but the professor chose to single us out and say, ladies, will you please be quiet? We're trying to start class. So things like that I didn't really, I just took it on the chin, didn't think about it, I just moved forward, and that's how I was raised. Other things that I realized is hearing about fellow colleagues or other women that were in management. And when the economy took a dive, the women were the ones that were let go first, even in upper management. And I don't have any proof that it was a gender issue, but it does make you wonder. I know this is a very important conversation and that women have been treated differently than others and been marginalized or sexually harassed. But just by the fact that we're talking about these issues is a great step forward. And through CIOSC, Women in Structural Engineering, through the SE3 project, etc., I think the future looks very hopeful and looks very bright to be able to change and work together and tackle these issues.
I don't want to think that, at least I didn't used to think that if I was not given the opportunity or if I was not seen for a new position, I never initially thought that it was because of my gender, because I didn't grow up with like that kind of thinking, right? It was always, if you work hard, if you do the same thing, you just get to the places. And I am originally from Turkey, and that's what I learned from my family. In that sense, I think family, like what your initial like the mindset that you're subject to is so matters, because for my family, there was nothing that I couldn't do. And like me being a girl was never an excuse for me to not do anything. So even, going out with the friends, like staying up late, everything is just like, that was totally fine. Nobody ever put that, oh, you're a girl, you cannot do this. So it has never been in my thought process that, oh, am I being mistreated or am I not given the opportunity so I never thought about that up until when I was in Dream Big, and one person came to me and asked, like, didn't you experience any discrimination? Like, how did you make it? And especially looking like you, because I'm more on the feminine side than maybe on average that we would see in the industry. And I'm just like, no. Then I started thinking about it. Yeah, it was all through the process, but I just did not see it. And maybe it's still at some point happening today too. So what we can do is you either realize it and get frustrated with it and give up. Or you say, okay, this is happening. It's just not fair, but I'm still going to keep going. Because like for all those people, all those women who kept going, we are coming to this place. And if we keep pushing, the next generation will do it. So like there are definitely discriminations. There are definitely opportunities that you are not missed, you are missed for. If a male is doing exactly as many things as I am doing, he probably would be taking on more of the higher promotions and everything. And I'm not aware of that. If you look at it throughout the industry, you will see women is just like kind of pushing. They are the best at home. They are the best in like the organization. They're in their job, and they try to do it all because like we set ourselves at a very high bar, and I think that's one of the things that needs to change. But discrimination exists. I think it's getting less and less though, because companies are acknowledging it, they're driving inclusion and diversity, and they're starting to value it.
If you could fulfill one wish for women in our civil engineering community, what would that be?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I think one that allows us to be a little bit more positive about the potential for growth into the future. For me, my wish for women in the engineering community is for us to be able to pursue our passion for engineering without modifying or adjusting our true selves, without having to feel like we need to alter our behaviors or alter the way we are in order to fit into a culture that may not be as accommodating for my gender. I also think that I would really love for women to be able to perform their work without worrying about how their performance might be viewed differently because of their gender. And that's my wish for women in engineering.
I would wish that they have the joy and happiness and success of the career that I have had. And again, a lot of it's definitely my work. I've spent about 35 years as a structural engineer, building designer, and consulting. And now I'm with an insurance company, a whole new career doing risk engineering. And so a lot of that is important, but also all the things I've done through ASC and other organizations. So I wish that everybody else has those kind of opportunities to help make a difference and be part of the profession of schooling.
So the one wish that I would have for women in our industry is that one, I'm going to tie two actually together. It is that they keep pushing forward, but while they're rising up, that they lift others up too. So, as they rise up, I really hope that they lift up others, especially the women, because that's one of the things that women in the industry experience significantly, that women do not help each other. And they feel like there's only one seat at the table. They feel threatened by the other ones, whereas if there are more than one seats for males, there are more than one seats for women. So for women too. I think that's the major wish.
There's a lot of things I wish, but one thing that I thought about is helping them break the glass ceiling. And I really don't believe in handing out things to people just because someone's marginalized or for whatever reason, race, gender, but to provide an even playing field for everyone to work from, to excel, if that makes sense. And to transfer all my knowledge and experience to women and to help them, which is what I'm trying to do with being the chair of Women in Structural Engineering for CIOSC, is to help them and support them any way I can.
Based on your personal experiences throughout your education and career, what advice would you offer to parents of young women or adolescents interested in pursuing careers in engineering programs, and to the girls who are early in their careers?
There's only one thing that I really would recommend. Do never compare your daughter to another male or boy. Do not say that she cannot do anything. And it doesn't have to be with STEM, within engineering and education. Do not tell her that she can't do anything because she's a girl. Because don't implement that in her brain, she's not going to have that mentality. I know it from myself. So I think that's the main issue. And for them, this is for the parents. And all the girls, be true to yourself. Be unique. Be you. Because there's really nobody else that are better than you. And if you're trying to copy somebody else, they're always going to be better than you because you are copying them. You stay true to you. You don't have to look like anyone. You don't have to like the things that others like to be successful. If you keep being true to yourself and be the unique person that you are, you'll be successful regardless.
I would first of all say it's a fantastic career. Engineering is wonderful. You make a difference. You touch, especially I'm a civil engineer, and civil engineering touches every single person's life every single day around the world. So if you want to make a difference, sometimes you may feel you're not, but you truly are. It's a wonderful field to be in. I would say those who in early career, figure out what you'd like. Try and stretch yourself. Make sure you have those goals. Don't let anybody tell you no. If there's something you truly believe in, listen to them, because they may be right. Maybe it's not the best thing for you to do. But if you truly feel it's the right thing for you, pursue it. Do the best you can and make sure you are having, make sure you're having fun, because that's what it's all about. You're helping others, you're helping yourself, you're helping your family. It's just a wonderful, wonderful profession to be part of.
And I actually have a daughter myself, and there's this saying that says, why raise a princess when you can raise a warrior? And that's something that I really love, that saying, and encouraging your young girls to learn leadership skills, to play on team sports, to volunteer in leadership camps, and raise warriors. Help them think independently. Don't shelter them. And then there's another saying that says, take the pain and make it a purpose. And when we go through life, we're going to have our stumbles and we're going to have our roadblocks, but take that and embrace it, learn from it, and make that your purpose to become stronger. The other thing is to have a strong network, because you're not in this alone. Try to embrace your friends, share with your friends, have that network around you, share your experiences with others.
Yeah, I think I can direct my advice or suggestions best to young women who are entering the profession. To be honest, I've been in this profession for just over 10 years, which is not very much time. But 10 years ago, I probably would have given some different advice than I would today. And that advice would have been, keep your head down, focus on doing good work, and the rest will come, And I think that that's the advice I would have given. And it's still in many ways the most pragmatic advice for our current work environments. But I'd like to alter that a little bit to say, and this might speak to the fact of how things have changed in the last 10 years with respect to progressing women within our profession. But I think that to the extent you can bring your true self, not have to change yourself, and call out any unfairness you see in the workplace when you see it, but also know when to speak up and when not to. So do your best to do great work, to continue pursuing your passion, but to also acknowledge when it's appropriate and when it's not, to bring your gender to the forefront of any conversation. I think most women in our field do our very best not to draw attention to that, but it's impossible not to acknowledge our differences, right? And so it's important to be able to give voice to when you see something happening that's not fair, but also to know when it's not the right time to